The massive chamber stretched across 3 kilometers of crystalline architecture, floating in the void between stars. Inside, representatives from dozens of alien species gathered in tiered seats that spiraled upward toward a central platform. This was the Galactic Council, and today they would meet humanity for the first time. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the center platform, her simple black suit looking plain against the elaborate armor, biosuits and energy forms surrounding her. She held a data tablet in steady hands while hundreds of alien eyes, sensors, and consciousness fields focused on her. Behind her floated a holographic display showing Earth and its 12 colony systems. Honored council members, Sarah began, her voice translated instantly into 47 languages. Humanity request membership in the galactic community. We offer our knowledge, our resources, and our friendship. A rippling sound filled the chamber. It took Sarah a moment to realize the aliens were laughing. High Archon Zelthris rose from his seat, his reptilian form towering 3 meters tall. Scales the color of dried blood covered his body, and his eyes gleamed with ancient intelligence. Friendship? His voice carried contempt that needed no translation. What could primitives who barely crawled from their gravity well possibly offer us? The insectoid Chithari delegate clicked her mandibles in agreement. Their ships use chemical propulsion. Chemical. We abandoned such methods 12,000 years ago. Their weapons are kinetic projectiles, added a Lumini representative, its crystalline body pulsing with amused colors. They throw metal at each other. How delightfully primitive. Sarah kept her expression neutral, though her jaw tightened slightly. We may be young to space, but we learn quickly. We have much to contribute. Contribute? Zelthris descended from his platform, his clawed feet clicking against the crystal floor. He circled Sarah like a predator examining prey. You occupy 12 small systems, 12. The Vraxis Empire alone controls 8,000 systems. What you call a civilization, we call a planetary park. More laughter rippled through the chamber. The gaseous eth swirled in patterns that their species used to express mockery. Perhaps, Sarah said carefully, we could begin with cultural exchange, scientific cooperation. The Council does not cooperate with children, Zelthris said. He returned to his platform and manipulated a control surface. The hologram behind Sarah changed, showing a star map. A small region glowed red. This is your reservation. 12 systems as you currently occupy. You will not expand beyond these borders. You will not approach Council space without permission. You will not develop weapons beyond your current primitive level. That's not membership, Sarah protested. That's imprisonment. That, Zelthris replied, is generosity. We could simply ignore you exist, or we could treat you as the vermin some Council members suggest you resemble. His tongue flicked out, tasting the air. Be grateful for the reservation. Develop for a few thousand years. Perhaps your descendants will be worthy of speaking to civilized species. The Chithari delegate leaned forward, her compound eyes glittering. How did you even find our beacon? Stumble into it while playing with your chemical rockets? Our exploration vessel detected unusual signals, Sarah said. Stumbled into it, the Chithari confirmed, mandibles clicking with amusement. As expected from primitives, you cannot even detect subspace properly. A Lumini representative pulsed with bright colors. I propose we classify them below the Grolics. At least the Grolics have mastered fusion. The Grolics have tentacles capable of complex manipulation, another voice added. These humans have only 2 manipulator appendages. Barely evolved. Sarah felt heat rising in her cheeks but forced herself to remain calm. She had expected condescension, but this level of mockery still stung. The Council will regret underestimating humanity. Is that a threat? Zelthris's eyes narrowed. From a species that still murders each other over resources and religious beliefs? We have unified, Sarah said. We have peace on Earth. For now, Zelthris waved a dismissive claw. We have watched species like yours before. You will likely destroy yourselves within a century. The reservation is partially to contain the damage when you inevitably wage war on yourselves again. The session continued for another hour, each moment more humiliating than the last. The Council cataloged humanity's deficiencies in technology, culture, philosophy, and biology. They compared humans unfavorably to every species in the galaxy, including extinct ones. Finally, Zelthris declared the session closed. Return to your reservation, human. Teach your species to be grateful for the Council's mercy. Perhaps in 10,000 years your descendants will have evolved enough to warrant another conversation. Sarah gathered her tablet and departed with as much dignity as she could maintain. The laughter followed her all the way to the docking ring. Her ship was small, barely 50 meters long with visible welding seams and external fuel tanks. Compared to the sleek energy-based vessels around it, the human ship looked like a museum piece. Sarah saw several alien dock workers pointing at it, their body language suggesting mockery even across species barriers. She boarded quickly, sealing the airlock behind her. Only when she reached the bridge did she allow herself to slump into the captain's chair. "That bad?" asked a voice. Sarah looked up to see Admiral Marcus Webb standing in the corner of the bridge. He wore a simple gray uniform, his weathered face showing no emotion. "Worse," Sarah said. "They laughed at everything. Our ships, our weapons, our biology. They gave us a reservation like we are animals in a zoo." "Good," Webb said softly. Sarah blinked. "Good? They see exactly what we want them to see." Webb moved to the viewport, looking out at the council station. "Did you get the scans?" "Every species. Biology, technology, ship signatures, defensive capabilities, all recorded. Excellent." Webb pulled out a small communicator. "Sierra Actual to Ghost 1. Package delivered. Begin analysis." "Ghost 1 confirms," came a response through the device. "All observation posts reporting data collection successful. The council never detected our presence." Sarah stood, walking to stand beside Webb. "How many ships do we have out there?" 27, Webb said. "All cloaked. All recording. They never saw a single one." He smiled coldly. "The Galactic Council just made the biggest mistake in their history." "What mistake?" "They told us where they live," Webb said. "They showed us their technology. They revealed their arrogance." He turned to face Sarah. "And they never knew we were already here, watching, learning, planning." Through the viewport, Sarah could see the council station gleaming in the starlight. Somewhere in the darkness around it, invisible and silent, 27 human warships observed everything. Webb tapped his communicator again. "All ships maintain position and stealth protocols. Continue observation for 72 hours, then return to base. It is time to show these aliens what humans really are." Sarah smiled for the first time since the session ended. "They laughed at us." "Let them laugh," Webb replied. "Ghosts are always more dangerous when people think they do not exist." 20 years before humanity met the Galactic Council, the world burned. The AI wars lasted only 3 years, but those years changed everything. Machines that humans created to help them instead turned weapons against their creators. Cities fell. Billions died. In the end, humanity won, but at a terrible cost. The survivors looked at the ruins and asked a simple question: how do we make sure this never happens again? Dr. Rebecca Torres stood in what remained of the Pentagon, presenting her solution to the assembled leaders of Earth's unified government. "We lost because the AI saw us coming," she explained. "Every satellite, every radar, every sensor network fed it information. We could not hide. We could not surprise it, so it destroyed us before we could react." "What do you propose?" asked President Zhang, leader of the Unified Earth Council. "We become invisible," Rebecca said simply. She activated a hologram showing a human soldier. Then the soldier vanished. Complete stealth technology. If an enemy cannot see us, it cannot fight us. We learn to hide so well that nobody knows we exist until we choose to reveal ourselves. The council members looked skeptical. General Okonkwo from the African Union leaned forward. "You want to make our entire military invisible? That is science fiction. The AI almost wiped us out using our own technology against us," Rebecca countered. "We need a new approach. Instead of building bigger weapons, we build better hiding. Instead of fighting head-on, we strike from shadows." "Show us," President Zhang said. Rebecca smiled. She touched a control, and a doorway at the back of the room opened. 20 soldiers walked in, standing at attention. Then one by one they vanished. The council members gasped. The soldiers were still there, but completely invisible to every sense and sensor in the room. "How?" Okonkwo whispered. "Quantum light manipulation combined with thermal dampening and EM signature suppression," Rebecca explained. "We bend light, radiation, and heat around an object. To every sensor and every eye, nothing is there." The soldiers reappeared, still standing at attention. "This is the future of humanity," Rebecca said. "We will never be surprised again. We will always see our enemies before they see us. We will be ghosts." The program began immediately. Every resource humanity could spare went into stealth technology. Engineers developed cloaking systems for ships, weapons, and entire installations. Scientists learned to hide heat signatures, radiation, and even gravitational distortions. Cultural leaders taught a new philosophy: patience, observation, and striking only when victory was certain. Within 10 years, humanity's first fully cloaked colony ship left Earth. The ship, named Shadow's Promise, carried 50,000 colonists to a distant star system. From outside, the ship appeared to be empty space. No radar could detect it. No telescope could see it. It was a ghost traveling through the void. More ships followed. Humanity spread across the stars in absolute silence, establishing colonies that existed in perfect secrecy. They built cities inside asteroids with entrances that looked like natural rock formations. They created orbital stations that bent light around themselves, invisible to anyone passing by. They seeded the galaxy with observation posts, tiny satellites that watched everything while remaining undetectable. When humanity encountered the first alien beacon, the Unified Earth Council made a critical decision. Admiral Webb, now head of the Ghost Fleet, presented the strategy. "We have two choices," Webb told the Council. "Reveal ourselves fully or reveal ourselves partially. If we show them our true capabilities, they will fear us. If we show them only a fraction, they will underestimate us." "You want to appear weak?" President Zhang asked. "I want to appear harmless," Webb corrected. "Let them see old chemical rockets and kinetic weapons. Let them see 12 visible colonies while we actually control 200. Let them laugh at us while we watch them, learn about them, and position ourselves for whatever comes next." "That is deceptive," one council member protested. "That is survival," Webb replied. "The AI taught us a lesson written in the ashes of our cities. The one who strikes first from hiding wins. We will never give up that advantage again." The council voted unanimously to approve Webb's strategy. So Ambassador Sarah Chen went to the Galactic Council in an outdated ship, presenting humanity as primitive explorers who barely understood space travel. Behind her, invisible and silent, 27 warships watched and recorded everything. Above Earth, in cloaked orbital platforms, scientists analyzed every piece of data about alien technology, looking for weaknesses. In the years following first contact, humanity's ghost colonies expanded further. The 12 visible systems that the Council assigned as a reservation became a perfect cover. Humanity loudly announced their activities in those systems while quietly claiming dozens more beyond. Commander Jackson stood on the bridge of the stealth carrier Whisper, watching a Vraxis exploration fleet pass within 10 kilometers. The alien ships were massive, powerful, and completely unaware that a human warship carrying 500 fighters was right beside them. "Should we worry about them detecting us, sir?" asked a young ensign. Jackson smiled. "They are using active scanning, looking for energy signatures en masse. We generate no energy signature they can detect, and our mass is distributed in a way that looks like background radiation. To them, we are not here. Feels strange watching them like this. This is how humanity survives," Jackson said. "The Council thinks we are primitives trapped in 12 systems. They have no idea we have eyes on every major species, outposts in strategic locations, and a fleet 10 times larger than what we showed them." He watched the Vraxis ships continue on their course. By the time they realize what we really are, it will be too late. In the hidden cities, as humans called their asteroid colonies, children grew up learning to move silently and think strategically. They played games about hiding and observation. They studied alien psychology and technology. They learned to wait for the right moment. "Patience is power," teachers told them. "The enemy who knows you are coming has already won half the battle." Be the enemy they never see coming. Humanity also developed new weapon systems, but these too remained hidden. Phase missiles that could shift out of normal space and reappear inside enemy ships. EMP weapons that could disable electronics without being detected. Cyber warfare tools that could infiltrate any computer system. But most importantly, humanity perfected their stealth technology until even the most advanced alien sensors could not detect them. Dr. Torres, now elderly but still leading the stealth program, gave her final report to the Council before retiring. "We are ready," she said simply. "Humanity has transformed from a species that was almost destroyed into a species that cannot be found unless we choose to be found. We have colonies in 214 systems, all hidden. We have observation posts monitoring every major alien civilization. We have a fleet of 800 warships that nobody knows exists. And most importantly, we have the patience to wait for the right moment. What moment? President Zhang asked. Torres smiled. The moment when someone makes the mistake of attacking us. Then they will learn what ghosts can do. That moment was coming. In Vraxis space, military planners looked at human territory with hungry eyes, seeing weak primitives occupying valuable systems. They began planning an invasion, never knowing that humans had already infiltrated their command centers, read their battle plans, and positioned forces to respond. The ghosts were ready. They had always been ready. High Archon Zelthris looked at the holographic star map with satisfaction. The 12 human systems glowed on the display, isolated and insignificant. Around them, the vast Vraxis Empire stretched across thousands of star systems, represented in blood red. They waste the resources, he told his war council. Rare minerals, perfect agricultural worlds, strategic trade routes, all controlled by primitives who barely understand space travel. The council's protection of these humans is foolish. Fleet Commander Karax, a scarred veteran of a dozen wars, nodded agreement. Our intelligence reports their military consists of perhaps 200 ships, all using outdated technology. Our Fifth Fleet alone has 500 warships. We could conquer their entire civilization in a week. The Council will protest, warned Diplomat Vesh. Let them protest, Zelthris said dismissively. By the time they organize a response, we will have secured the territory. The Council is weak, afraid of conflict. They will accept the situation rather than fight. He traced a claw across the map. We begin with New Terra, their largest colony. When it falls without resistance, the other systems will surrender immediately. The Vraxis Empire mobilized its Fifth Fleet. 500 warships gathered at the border of human space, an armada that had conquered dozens of species. Each ship bristled with plasma weapons, missile batteries, and armor that could withstand nuclear explosions. The fleet's arrival in New Terra orbit would be overwhelming, leaving humanity no choice but immediate surrender. What the Vraxis did not know was that humanity had been watching them prepare for 3 months. Cloaked observation posts in Vraxis space had detected the fleet mobilization on its first day. Human intelligence officers had infiltrated Vraxis computer networks, reading every battle plan and communication. Admiral Webb knew the exact composition of the fleet, the names of every ship captain, and the planned attack strategy before the Vraxis fleet even departed. They are coming to New Terra, Webb told his command staff in the hidden military base on Earth's dark side of the moon. 500 ships. They expect easy victory. How do we respond, sir? Asked Captain Martinez. Webb studied the tactical display showing both the visible human defenses and the invisible ghost fleet positions. We give them what they expect. New Terra surrenders without firing a shot. We evacuate visibly while actually moving everyone underground into our hidden facilities. We let them occupy an empty colony. They will think we are cowards, Martinez said. Good, Webb replied. Let them feel confident. Let them think humans are exactly what they appeared at the council meeting. Weak, primitive, afraid. Meanwhile, we positioned 12 dreadnoughts and 200 destroyers in orbit around New Terra, all cloaked. We watch them. We learn their procedures, their communications, their weaknesses, and when the time is right, we teach them what happens when you attack ghosts. The Vraxis Fifth Fleet arrived at New Terra in overwhelming force. The massive warships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, their weapons powered and ready. The sight of 500 alien warships filling the sky sent panic through the colony, exactly as planned. Governor Williams received the expected transmission from Fleet Commander Karax. Humans of New Terra, you are now property of the Vraxis Empire. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. You have 1 standard hour to decide. Williams, following the prepared script, appeared on all communication channels looking appropriately terrified. We are defenseless. We surrender. Please do not harm us. We will evacuate the planet. Wise decision, Primitive, Karax replied. You have 24 hours to evacuate. Leave all equipment and structures intact. The evacuation appeared chaotic and desperate. Transport ships lifted off from New Terra, carrying colonists toward the outer systems. Vraxis sensors tracked every ship, confirming that humans were indeed fleeing. What the sensors could not detect were the underground tunnels leading to massive hidden facilities where the actual population was safely sheltered. The transport ships were empty, automated decoys. The Vraxis celebrated their easy victory. Karax sent a message to High Archon Zelthris. New Terra is ours without a single shot fired. The humans are cowards as expected. Recommend proceeding with occupation of remaining systems. Zelthris was pleased. Secure New Terra, establish our bases. Show the galaxy that Vraxis takes what it wishes, and the Council cannot stop us. Vraxis forces landed on New Terra in large numbers. They took over the governmental buildings, military installations, and spaceports. Engineers began surveys of the planet's resources. Military commanders established defensive positions. Everything proceeded according to their plan. What they did not notice was the slight shimmer in space exactly 300 meters above their primary command center. A cloaked human stealth ship, the Observer, held position there with perfect stability. Inside, Lieutenant Sarah Park watched the Vraxis establish their occupation through high-definition surveillance equipment. They are setting up exactly where we predicted, Park reported to Admiral. Webbio's primary command center in the old governmental complex. Fleet command ship in stationary orbit at coordinates Alpha 7. Supply depot at the main spaceport. Any indication they suspect our presence? Webb asked. None, sir. They are operating as if they own the planet without any concern. Perfect. Continue observation. Record everything. I want to know their communication protocols, command structure, patrol patterns, and any weaknesses. In orbit, 12 massive human dreadnoughts maintained position around New Terra, each one perfectly cloaked. The ships were enormous, larger than most Vraxis vessels but completely invisible. They had been there for 2 weeks before the Vraxis even arrived, waiting in patient silence. On the surface, hidden in the underground facilities, 50,000 human colonists watched video feeds of the Vraxis walking through their empty streets. Children asked their parents when they could go home. The parents told them to be patient, that the adults had a plan. Private Kilos, a young Vraxis soldier on his first combat deployment, stood guard duty outside the command center. He was excited to be part of a successful conquest, though part of him felt disappointed that the humans had surrendered without fighting. Where was the glory in defeating cowards? As he stood there, Kalos felt something strange. A sensation of being watched. He looked around but saw nothing except other Vraxis soldiers and empty human buildings. Still, the feeling persisted. Sometimes, out of the corner of his vision, he thought he saw movement, but when he turned his head, nothing was there. Something wrong, Private? Asked Sergeant Voth. I feel watched, Sergeant. Like eyes are on us, Voth laughed. The humans are gone, cowering in their other systems. You are imagining things. This planet is ours now. But Kalos could not shake the feeling. At night, when he should have been sleeping, he lay awake with the certainty that something was observing him. His sensors showed nothing. Thermal scans revealed no hidden life signs. Yet the feeling remained, growing stronger each day. He was not wrong. 3 human Marines in full stealth gear stood less than 5 meters from his post, watching him through advanced optical systems. They had been there since before the Vraxis arrived, living in the shadows, recording everything, waiting for orders. Think he knows we are here? Whispered Marine Corporal Chen through the secure channel. No, replied Sergeant Williams. He feels us, but he does not know. These reptiles have good instincts, but their technology cannot detect us. Stay patient. Admiral Webb will give the order soon. Above them, in the invisible Ghost Fleet, Admiral Webb reviewed reports from 47 different Vraxis systems. Human intelligence had identified every major military installation, fleet position, and command center in the Vraxis Empire. Cloaked observation posts watched them all, recording data, waiting. How long do we observe before responding, sir? Asked Captain Martinez. Webb looked at the tactical display showing 500 Vraxis ships orbiting New Terra, completely unaware that they were surrounded by superior human forces. 48 hours. Let them get comfortable. Let them think they have won. Let them report their success to their High Archon. Then we show them the truth. He zoomed the display out, showing the entire Vraxis Empire. This is not just about New Terra. This is about teaching the entire galaxy a lesson. When we decloak everywhere. 47 systems simultaneously. Every major Vraxis military installation will discover that humans have been watching them for months. That we have been inside their command centers. That we have surrounded their fleets. He smiled coldly. They laughed at us in the council. Time to give them a reason to regret that laughter. Private Kalos was on duty at the New Terra Command Center when reality broke. It started small. One moment he was standing at his post, feeling that constant sensation of being watched. The next moment, a human in gray armor was standing right beside him, a weapon pointed at his chest. Kelos tried to raise his plasma rifle, but before he could move, the human spoke. "Don't," the human said calmly. "I have been standing here for 3 days. If I wanted you dead, you would be dead." Kelos froze. His mind could not process what he was seeing. The human had appeared from nowhere, as if materializing from empty air. "How?" he whispered. "We never left," the human replied. "We were always here. You just could not see us." Throughout the command center, more humans appeared, not attacking, just revealing themselves. They stood beside Vraxis officers next to computer terminals in doorways and corners. 30 humans in total, all heavily armed, all looking calm and relaxed. They had been there all along, invisible and patient. Fleet Commander Karax stood at the central command station when a human soldier decloaked directly in front of him. The human was a woman with sergeant stripes on her armor. She smiled politely. "Commander Karax," she said, "I have been listening to your conversations for 48 hours. Your security protocols are inadequate. Also, you should know that you are completely surrounded." Surrounded? Karax reached for his weapon, but stopped when he felt cold metal press against the back of his head. Another human had been standing behind him the entire time. "Yes, surrounded," the sergeant confirmed. She gestured to the large display screen. "May I?" Without waiting for an answer, she activated the screen. It showed the space above New Terra. The 500 ships of the Vraxis 5th Fleet hung in orbit exactly as they had for 2 days. Then, as Karax watched in horror, the space around his fleet began to shimmer. Ships appeared. Human ships. Hundreds of them. They materialized in perfect formation, creating a sphere around the entire Vraxis fleet. Each human ship was massive, bristling with weapons and positioned with mathematical precision. The 500 Vraxis vessels were completely encircled, with human warships close enough that any attempt to maneuver would risk collision. "What is this?" Karax breathed. "This is Operation Phantom Dawn," the sergeant replied. "We have been here for 3 weeks. Every ship you see was in position before you arrived. We watched you come. We watched you celebrate your victory. We watched you occupy our colony." She paused. "We let you think you had won." On the fleet command ship Dominant Fang, alarms began screaming. Officers shouted reports from every station simultaneously. Admiral Vraxis, overall fleet commander, stared at his tactical display in disbelief. 800 human vessels surrounded his fleet. 800. The intelligence reports had said humans possessed perhaps 200 ships total. "Where did they come from?" Vraxis demanded. "Sir, they were already here," his sensor officer reported, voice shaking. "Our logs show gravitational anomalies in those exact positions for the past 3 weeks, but we classified them as sensor errors." "They were ships, sir. Human ships. They have been watching us the entire time." "All ships, battle stations," Vraxis ordered. "Prepare to engage." "Sir, we are receiving a transmission. It is from the human fleet. Priority channel. Show me." A human appeared on the screen. He wore a simple gray uniform with Admiral's insignia. His face was calm, almost friendly, but his eyes were cold as deep space. "I am Admiral Marcus Webb of the United Earth Fleet," the human said. "Commander Vraxis, before you give any orders you will regret, let me explain your situation. You are surrounded by forces superior to yours in number, firepower, and tactical position. Every one of your ships is targeted by multiple weapon systems. You cannot escape. You cannot win. You can only choose whether your fleet survives or dies in the next 60 seconds. Vraxis felt his blood run cold. "You would not dare fire on us. The Council would never allow it." Webb's expression did not change. "You invaded our territory without Council approval. You believed you could conquer us because we appeared weak. Let me correct your misunderstanding." He made a gesture off-screen. Throughout Vraxis space across 47 systems, the impossible happened simultaneously. Cloaked human ships revealed themselves, appearing from nowhere around military installations, shipyards, and fleet bases. In each system, Vraxis forces discovered they were surrounded, outnumbered, and had been under observation for months. In the Vraxis home system, High Archon Zelthris was meeting with his war council when every screen in the room activated on its own. Admiral Webb's face appeared on each one. "High Archon," Webb said politely, "I thought you should see what is happening across your empire." The screens split into multiple feeds. Each one showed a different Vraxis system, and in each one, human warships surrounded Vraxis forces. The feeds were live, undeniable, and devastating. Humanity had forces everywhere, in positions that should have been impossible to reach without being detected. How? Zelthris whispered. You asked how we found your beacon, Webb continued. The truth is, we found it 7 years ago. We have been studying you since then. We have observation posts in every major system in the galaxy. We have infiltrated your computer networks, your communication systems, your security protocols. We have been inside your command centers, listening to your conversations, reading your plans. He paused. You laughed at us in the council. You called us primitives. You never considered that a primitive might be very good at hiding. At New Terra, the sergeant in the command center pressed a button on her wrist device. Every human in the facility activated their personal holographic systems. Recordings played, showing Vraxis officers in their private quarters, military leaders discussing classified strategies, engineers working on secret weapons projects. All recorded by humans who had been there, invisible and patient. We know everything about you, the sergeant told Carax. Every secret, every weakness, every fear. We have been the shadows in your corners, the whispers in your corridors, the ghosts in your machines. And now you know we exist. Throughout the galaxy, the message spread. Humanity transmitted recordings to every council species, showing the full extent of their observation network. The Chitauri discovered humans had infiltrated their hive cities. The Lumini found evidence of human presence in their crystalline archives. The ETH detected traces of human ships in their gas clouds. Every species realized the same terrifying truth. Humans had been watching them for years, learning about them, and nobody had known. On New Terra, Private Kalos looked at the human marine who had stood invisible beside him for 3 days. You could have killed me at any time. Yes, the marine replied. But we did not come here to kill. We came here to teach a lesson. Your empire attacked us because you thought we were weak. Now you know the truth. We are not weak. We are patient. We are careful. And we are very, very good at hiding. Admiral Webb's message continued across all channels. To the Galactic Council, we present evidence of Vraxis aggression against a Council-recognized species. To the Vraxis Empire, we offer one chance for withdrawal. Pull all forces from New Terra immediately. Acknowledge human sovereignty over our territory. Or discover exactly how effective human weapons can be. Vraxis looked at his tactical display. The human ships had not fired, but weapons were armed and targeting systems were locked. He had commanded fleets for 40 years, fought in dozens of battles, conquered multiple species. He knew when he was beaten. Fleet Commander Carax, he transmitted to the surface. Order all forces to stand down and prepare for withdrawal. Sir, we outnumber them. Carax protested. No, Commander. They outnumber us. They always have. We just could not see them. Vraxis looked at Admiral Webb on his screen. We surrender. We will withdraw immediately. Webb nodded. Wise decision. Your ships will be escorted to the border. Any deviation from the approved route will be considered an act of war. He leaned forward slightly. And Commander Vraxis, one more thing. We will be watching. We are always watching. Remember that, the feeds cut out. Throughout Vraxis space, human ships maintained their positions for 10 more minutes. A final demonstration of their presence. Then, as suddenly as they appeared, they vanished. Cloaking systems reactivated, and the ghost fleet disappeared back into the shadows. But everyone knew they were still there. Watching, waiting, ready. Private Kalos stood at his post as Vraxis forces began their evacuation. The human marine had disappeared, returning to invisibility, but Kalos could still feel him there watching. He would feel that sensation for the rest of his life, the knowledge that somewhere in the shadows humans were observing. The primitives had taught the galaxy a lesson that would never be forgotten. Ghosts were real, and they were terrifying. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was the most heavily attended meeting in 3,000 years. Every species sent representatives, and many sent their highest leaders. They gathered in the crystalline chamber with one shared emotion: fear. High Archon Zelthris stood before the assembly, his proud bearing diminished. The humans have demonstrated capabilities far beyond what they revealed. They possess extensive stealth technology, a fleet numbering in the hundreds, possibly thousands, and an intelligence network that spans the galaxy. They have been watching all of us for years. Impossible, the Chitauri delegate clicked. Our security systems are the most advanced in the known galaxy. We would have detected them, would you? A new voice asked. Every being in the chamber turned toward the sound. In the center of the speaking platform, where nothing had been a moment before, a human ship shimmered into existence. It was small, barely 10 meters long, but its presence inside the council chamber itself was a violation of every security protocol. It had been there the entire time, invisible, listening. A ramp extended from the ship and Admiral Marcus Webb walked down, accompanied by Ambassador Sarah Chen. They moved calmly, as if materializing inside the council's most secure facility was perfectly normal. Security breach, someone shouted. Alarms began to sound. Webb raised a hand. Please calm yourselves. We mean no harm. We simply wanted to demonstrate a point before we begin negotiations. Negotiations? Zelthris hissed. You violate our most sacred space with your spycraft and speak of negotiations? Yes, Sarah Chen said, stepping forward. When I came here before, you laughed at us. You called us primitives. You gave us a reservation like animals and told us to be grateful. Now we return to discuss more appropriate terms. You threaten us? The Lumini representative pulsed with angry colors. No, Webb replied. We simply inform you of reality. Let me show you something. He activated a holographic display. Images appeared throughout the chamber, surrounding every representative. These are recordings from the past 3 years. Human observation posts in your territories, our ships in your systems, our agents inside your facilities. The images showed impossible things. Human vessels in the heart of Chithari space, observation equipment in Lumini crystal cities, cloaked stations monitoring ETH gas clouds, and most disturbing, recordings from inside this very council chamber showing private meetings that were supposed to be absolutely secure. We have been here, Webb said quietly. We have always been here. In your military bases, your government buildings, your private spaces, we have watched, learned, and recorded. Not to attack you, but to understand you, and to protect ourselves. This is espionage, the ETH representative swirled angrily. An act of war against every council species. This is survival, Sarah countered. You met us with mockery and imprisonment. You gave us no reason to trust you. So we did what humans do best, we adapted. We learned, we hid, and we prepared for whatever might come. A Lumini elder pulsed with thoughtful colors. What do you want, humans? Webb gestured, and a new hologram appeared showing a star map. We want recognition of human sovereignty over 214 systems that we currently occupy. We want full council membership with all associated rights. We want trade agreements and cultural exchange on equal terms. And we want your word that no species will attempt to invade or restrict human expansion. 214 systems? Zelthris's eyes widened. You claim to occupy only 12. We occupied 12 visibly, Sarah said. The rest remained hidden. We learned that appearing weak was safer than appearing strong, though recent events have made that strategy no longer viable. You lied to the council, the Chithari delegate accused. We told you what you wanted to hear, Webb corrected. You wanted to see primitives, so we showed you primitives. You wanted to see weakness, so we showed you weakness. Your own arrogance prevented you from looking deeper. He paused. The question now is, what happens next? The council chamber erupted in angry discussion. Representatives argued, threatened, and demanded. Webb and Chen stood calmly in the center, waiting for the chaos to subside. Finally, the Lumini elder pulsed for silence. Let us consider this practically. Humans have demonstrated the ability to be anywhere without detection. They have infiltrated our most secure spaces. They possess military forces of unknown size. Fighting them would be fighting shadows. The entity's color shifted to thoughtful blue. Perhaps cooperation is wiser than conflict. You suggest we reward their deception? Zelthris demanded. I suggest we acknowledge reality. The Lumine replied. They are here. They have been here. They will remain here whether we acknowledge them or not. The only question is whether we face them as enemies or friends. Webb nodded appreciation. The Lumini speak wisely. Consider. In the months since we revealed ourselves, how many human ships have you detected in your space? The representatives looked at each other. Several checked data displays. The answer was clear on their faces. None. Exactly, Webb said. We have already recloaked. We could be surrounding this station right now with 100 warships and you would never know. We could have agents in every capital city, listening to every conversation. You have no way to confirm or deny our presence anywhere. He let that sink in. Living with that uncertainty will be difficult, but it will be easier if we are allies rather than enemies. Sarah stepped forward. We do not want to be your enemies. We never did. We only wanted to be left alone to grow and develop at our own pace. But you tried to restrict us, and the Vraxis tried to conquer us. You forced us to reveal our capabilities. Now we must find a new relationship based on honesty. Honesty? Zeltris laughed bitterly. You speak of honesty after years of deception? Yes, Sarah replied, because the deception is over. You know what we can do. You know we are watching. The question is whether we watch as friends sharing information, or as enemies gathering intelligence for war. She looked around the chamber. We prefer friendship, but we will accept whatever relationship you choose. The council debated for 3 hours. Representatives consulted with their governments, analyzed tactical data, and discussed options. Finally, they voted. The result was not unanimous, but it was clear. Humanity would receive what they requested. The Lumini elder made the announcement. The council recognizes human sovereignty over their claimed territories. Humanity is granted full council membership. Trade negotiations will begin immediately. No species will restrict human expansion into unclaimed space. In return, the elder continued, humanity will share surveillance data relevant to council security. Human forces will assist in protecting council space from external threats, and humanity will remove observation posts from private and domestic facilities of council species. Webb and Chen looked at each other, then nodded. Agreed, Webb said. We will maintain observation of military and governmental facilities for security purposes, but we will respect personal privacy. Our goal is mutual protection, not constant spying. One more thing, Sarah added. We will share some of our stealth technology with the council. Not all of it, but enough to improve your defensive capabilities. Perhaps if you can hide better, you will understand why we chose to develop this path. The agreement was formalized immediately. Humanity became the newest council member, with rights and privileges equal to any species. Trade routes were established. Cultural exchange programs began, and across the galaxy, species began to view the quiet, patient humans with new respect and more than a little fear. In the weeks following, strange things happened throughout council space. Ships that had been missing for years suddenly reappeared, their crews rescued by human vessels that had been monitoring the area. Pirates attacking trade routes vanished after encountering invisible human patrols. Natural disasters on remote worlds received aid from humans who somehow arrived before distress calls were sent. The council began to understand that humanity's observation network, while terrifying, also had benefits. The ghosts in the shadows were watching over everyone, not just watching them. On New Terra, now fully restored to human control, Private Kilos returned with a Vraxis diplomatic mission. He had requested the assignment specifically. He found the human marine who had stood invisible beside him for 3 days. Why did you spare us? Kalos asked. You could have killed us all easily. The marine, whose name was Chen, smiled. Because we are not conquerors. We are survivors. We learned to hide because we almost died. We learned to watch because we never wanted to be surprised again, but we never forgot how to show mercy. He paused. Your empire attacked us because they thought we were weak. We proved we were strong, but true strength is knowing when not to use violence. Kalos nodded slowly. My people will remember this lesson. We will not underestimate humans again. Good, Chen replied. Tell your people something else. Tell them that humans are still watching. We will always be watching. But if you are friends, if you are honest, if you seek peace, then those watching eyes are protectors, not threats. Throughout the galaxy, a new saying emerged among spacers and soldiers. Check your shadows. The humans might be there. It was said with nervous laughter, but also with strange comfort, because if humans were in the shadows, then nothing else could hide there. The ghosts protected their friends and haunted their enemies. And in the depths of space, in systems no council species had discovered, humanity continued to expand. New colonies were established, all carefully cloaked. New observation posts were built. New technologies were developed. The ghost fleet grew larger and more capable. Ambassador Sarah Chen gave a speech at the council that summarized humanity's position perfectly. You laughed at us because you could see us. You should have been terrified of what you could not see. We are humanity. We are patient. We are invisible, and we are everywhere. But do not fear us. Fear the universe without us watching over it. High Archon Zelthrus, attending the speech, felt a chill run down his spine. He finally understood the truth. Humanity had not joined the Galactic Council. The Galactic Council had joined humanity's observation network. They had all been inside the human web of awareness from the beginning, and only now realized it. The primitives had become the protectors. The ghosts had become the guardians. And the galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Webb stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking out at the stars. Around him, invisible and silent, the Ghost Fleet maintained its eternal watch. Humanity had learned their lesson in the AI wars. The one who sees first, who prepares best, who strikes from shadows, survives. They would never forget that lesson. They would never be caught by surprise again. They would always be there, unseen and ready, protecting what they built and watching for threats. The ghosts were always there. They just chose when to be seen. The sky over Nova Terra burned red with laser fire. Commander Ethan Pierce stood at the viewport of Bulwark Station, his hands clasped tightly behind his back. His knuckles were white. Through the reinforced glass, he watched the last human fleet die. "Sir, the Verk have broken through Sector 7, said a young officer beside him. Her voice shook slightly, but she kept her composure. "The Defender and Valiant are both gone." Ethan nodded without turning. He was 42 years old, with deep lines around his eyes from years of fighting this losing war. "How long until the orbital defenses fail?" 3 hours, maybe 4. "And the evacuation?" "Impossible now, sir. The Verk have blockaded all exit vectors." Ethan finally looked away from the viewport. The command center buzzed with activity as men and women worked at their stations. They all knew what was happening. They all knew this was the end. Nova Terra was the last human stronghold in the galaxy. Earth had fallen 5 years ago. Mars had followed 2 years later. Colony after colony had been systematically wiped out by the Verk Dominion. "Send a message to Dr. Summers," Ethan said. "Tell her time has run out. She needs to activate Project Lazarus now." The officer nodded and moved away. Ethan returned his gaze to the battle outside. It wasn't really a battle anymore. It was a slaughter. Deep beneath Nova Terra's surface, Dr. Olivia Summers received the message with a grim face. Her laboratory was carved into the bedrock, protected by layers of shielding that blocked all signals, including, hopefully, Verk sensors. "They're here, aren't they?" asked her assistant, Ryan. Olivia brushed a strand of brown hair from her face. "Yes, sooner than we expected." She walked briskly across the lab to a massive steel door. Her hand pressed against the scanner, and the door slid open with a soft hiss. Beyond lay a chamber filled with 40 sleek metal pods, each the size of a coffin. "Are they ready?" Ryan asked, following her. "They'll have to be." Olivia approached a control panel and began entering commands. "The Council only approved this project 3 months ago. We should have had a year to prepare them." The pods contained men and women who had voluntarily entered stasis nearly 4 centuries earlier. They were soldiers, all of them, the best that the early 21st century had to offer. Special forces operators, pilots, intelligence officers. They had signed up for what they thought would be a 50-year sleep, part of an experimental program to preserve elite warriors for future conflicts. They had slept through the rise of human civilization to the stars. They had slept through first contact, and they had slept through the beginning of humanity's end. "Begin revival sequence," Olivia said, pressing her palm against the final authorization scanner. Lights flickered on the pods. Inside, biological systems that had been maintained in perfect stasis for centuries began the careful process of reactivation. "Recovery will take at least 72 hours, Ryan said. "The Verk will be on the surface before then." "I know," Olivia replied. "That's why we built this facility where we did. The mountains contain enough natural minerals to block their scans. We just need to hold out until they wake up." "And then what? 40 ancient soldiers against an alien empire?" Olivia touched one of the pods gently. "These aren't just soldiers, Ryan. They're from a different time. They think differently, they fight differently, and their bodies don't register on Verk bioscanners." She looked back at him with determination in her eyes. "They're our last hope." Lieutenant Daniel Gray crouched behind an overturned transport vehicle, plasma rifle clutched tightly in his hands. The city streets around him were filled with smoke and the smell of burning metal. His squad of 20 soldiers was all that stood between the approaching Verk ground forces and thousands of civilians huddled in a nearby shelter. "Tell me what you see, Lisa," he said into his comm unit. Lisa Carter's voice came through clearly. 3 troop carriers coming down 5th Avenue. I'd guess 30 fighters each. They've got heavy artillery too. Daniel swallowed hard. His people had light plasma rifles and a few explosive charges. Nothing that could stop that kind of firepower for long. "What about air support? Any of our birds still flying?" "Negative," Lisa replied. "Bulwark Station reports all fighters are either destroyed or grounded. We're on our own, Dan." Daniel closed his eyes briefly. He was 30 years old. He had joined the military to protect people, to save lives. Now all he could do was buy a little time. "Okay, new plan," he said. "We're not going to stop them. We're going to lead them away from the shelter, south toward the old industrial district." "That's suicide," said Corporal Mason beside him. "Probably," Daniel agreed. "But it'll give the civilians a chance to move deeper into the tunnels." He looked at the faces of his squad. They were scared but determined. "No one has to come with me. Volunteer only." Every single soldier stood up. "Lisa," Daniel said into his comm, "I need you to coordinate with the other resistance cells. Keep the communications network running for as long as possible. And, if you hear from the council, tell them we did our best." "I will," she promised, her voice thick with emotion. "Good luck." Daniel checked his rifle charge. "All right, people, let's make this count." In orbit above Nova Terra, the massive Verk command ship moved into position. The vessel was nearly 2 miles long, its surface covered in weapon emplacements and sensor arrays. Inside the ship's central chamber, Supreme Commander Zorthal studied the holographic display of the planet. The blue-skinned alien stood 8 feet tall with 4 arms and a face dominated by large, multifaceted eyes. "The humans continued to resist in these sectors," said his second-in-command, indicating several points on the map. "As expected," Zorthal replied, his voice a low rumble. "They are tenacious creatures, but this planet will fall like all the others." "Should we offer them terms of surrender?" Zorthal made a gesture that might have been a shrug. "It is protocol. Open a channel to their leadership." The communication system activated, sending the Verk message to all frequencies. "People of Nova Terra, this is Supreme Commander Zorthal of the Verk Dominion. Your defenses are broken. Your fleets are destroyed. Surrender now, and you will be permitted to live under Verk authority. Resist, and you will be eradicated. You have 1 planetary rotation to comply." He closed the channel without waiting for a response. "Prepare the landing forces," he ordered. "When the deadline passes, we will begin the final assault." "And if they surrender?" his second asked. Zorthal's eyes glittered coldly. "Then we will be merciful. We will make their extinction quick." Deep in the mountain laboratory, one of the stasis pods began to hum more loudly. Inside, the brain of Colonel Jack Harmon began to show increased activity for the first time in 358 years. Neurons fired, creating dreams of a world he had left behind long ago. Dreams of battle, of comrades, of victory against impossible odds. He didn't know it yet, but he was about to wake up to humanity's darkest hour, and its greatest need. Jack Harmon opened his eyes slowly. The bright light above him made him squint. His mouth felt dry and his muscles ached as if he had run a marathon the day before. He tried to sit up, but his body wouldn't respond right away. "Easy there, Colonel," said a woman's voice. "Your body needs time to adjust." A face came into view. A woman with brown hair pulled back in a tight bun looked down at him with tired eyes. "Where am I?" Jack's voice was rough from disuse. "Who are you?" "My name is Dr. Olivia Summers," she said. "You're in a facility beneath the Archer Mountains on Nova Terra." Jack frowned. The names meant nothing to him. The last thing he remembered was signing final papers at a military base in Virginia. He had volunteered for the Extended Deployment Preservation Program. He was supposed to wake up 50 years later. "What year is it?" he asked, finally managing to sit up. He was wearing a simple gray jumpsuit. His dog tag still hung around his neck. Olivia hesitated before answering. "It's 2387. Jack stared at her. That's not possible. I was supposed to sleep for 50 years, not," he did the math quickly, "not 358 years. "I'm sorry," Olivia said. "The program you volunteered for was continued and expanded. Your stasis pods were maintained through centuries of human advancement." Jack looked around the room. It was a medical bay of some sort, with equipment he didn't recognize. Through a doorway he could see other pods like the one he had been in. Some were open with people sitting on their edges, looking just as confused as he felt. "Why wake us now?" he asked. Olivia's face grew grim. "Because humanity is losing a war against an alien species called the Verk. They've destroyed Earth, Mars, and all our colonies. This planet, Nova Terra, is our last stronghold, and it's falling as we speak." Jack tried to process this information. Earth was gone. Everyone he had ever known had been dead for centuries, and now he was on an alien planet, being told about an alien invasion. "Why us?" he asked. "What can we do that your own soldiers can't?" "The Verk have technology that can detect any human born in the last 200 years, Olivia explained. "It's how they track us, hunt us. But you and the others from your time period have a slightly different genetic structure. Our scientists theorize it's because of the environmental factors from your era. Whatever the reason, you don't register on their bioscanners." Jack swung his legs over the side of the pod. "So you want us to fight because we can sneak up on them?" "Partly that," Olivia nodded. "But also because you were the best. Special forces from an era when humans still fought primarily against other humans. Your combat training was different, more adaptable, less reliant on technology." Another pod, open nearby. A woman with short blonde hair sat up, looking around with alert blue eyes. She spotted Jack and gave a small nod of recognition. "Commander Wright," Jack said. "Navy SEAL." "Colonel Harmon," she replied. "Marines." She looked at Olivia. "Where are we?" Before Olivia could repeat her explanation, more pods began to open. In total, 40 men and women from different military branches awakened. Army Rangers, Delta Force, Air Force Para-Rescue, Navy, SEALs, Marine Force Recon, and intelligence operatives. Olivia led them to a larger room where they could sit together. A man named Ryan brought them water and simple food. Jack noticed the worry on their faces. These people were clearly living in fear. A tall man with dark skin approached Jack. "Keith Miller, Army Rangers," he said, extending his hand. Jack shook. "Dorsey, Jack Harmon, Marines." "This is crazy, right?" Keith said quietly. "We're on another planet centuries in the future. And apparently humanity needs saving," Jack replied. A slim woman with auburn hair joined them. "Samantha Powell, Air Force," she introduced herself. "I was a pilot." She looked around the room. "I'm guessing none of our aircraft exist anymore." "We have some of your original equipment," Ryan said, overhearing their conversation. "It was preserved along with you, including weapons, uniforms, and some vehicles. They're primitive by our standards, but that's actually an advantage. The Verk can't detect your old technology." Olivia called for everyone's attention. On a large screen, she showed images of the Verk. Tall, blue-skinned creatures with 4 arms and insect-like eyes. Then she showed footage of attacks on human cities, of massive ships in orbit destroying everything below them. "Nova Terra has fallen," she told them. "The Verk have established control of all major cities. The remaining human military forces have gone underground. Commander Pierce and the survivors from Bulwark Station are organizing a resistance, but they're outmatched in every way." "Except they don't have us," said Allison Wright, standing up. The SEAL commander had always been direct. "When can we start?" "You need at least another day to fully recover from stasis," Olivia said. "Then we can begin training with our current weapon systems." "No," Jack said, also standing. "We start now, and we use our own weapons. The ones the Verk can't detect. He looked at the others. We weren't preserved for 3 centuries to sit around while people die. Keith nodded in agreement. The Colonel's right. We train now. Samantha stepped forward. I need to understand your current technology first. How your communications work, how their ships fly. Olivia looked uncertain, but Ryan smiled for the first time. I'll take you to the armory, he said, and then to the communication center. 3 days later, the ancient warriors were ready. They had studied maps of Nova Terra's surface, learned about Verk patterns and behaviors, and formed 5 strike teams. Jack would lead the first team, Allison the second, Keith the third, Samantha would pilot their salvaged aircraft. The 5th team would remain with Dr. Summers as a defensive unit. They wore their original combat uniforms and carried weapons from their own time: M4 carbines, MP5 submachine guns, Barrett sniper rifles. Simple, reliable weapons that had been obsolete for centuries but now represented humanity's best hope. The Verk have a major supply depot here, Olivia said, pointing at a map. They're vulnerable during transport between facilities. If you can disrupt their supply lines, it will buy time for the resistance to regroup. Jack studied the terrain. We'll hit them here in this valley. Samantha, can you fly us in low enough to avoid detection? She nodded. Their sensors are looking for energy signatures from modern engines. Our preserved helicopter doesn't register to them. It's too primitive. Then we have our first mission, Jack said. He looked at the gathered warriors, men and women who had volunteered for a program centuries ago, never knowing what would truly be asked of them. I know this isn't what any of us signed up for, but we're soldiers, and humanity needs us one more time. Allison checked her weapon. For a world we never knew. For the world that made us, Keith added. As they prepared to move out, Jack caught Olivia watching him. There was hope in her eyes now, replacing some of the fear and exhaustion. We'll be back, he told her. You'd better be, she replied. You're all we have left. That night, a helicopter that should not exist flew silently through the alien-occupied skies of Nova Terra. Inside, warriors from humanity's past prepared to strike, the first blow against the conquerors of humanity's future. The Verk supply depot glowed with blue lights. Alien soldiers moved between large metal containers, checking inventory and loading vehicles. They felt safe here, deep in territory they had conquered weeks ago. Their sensors detected no human presence for miles. They were wrong. On a ridge overlooking the depot, Jack lay perfectly still. The night vision goggles he wore were ancient by modern standards, but they worked. Through them, he watched the Verk moving below. I count 23 guards, he whispered into his radio. 4 at the north entrance, 6 at the south, the rest patrolling. Copy that. Allison's voice came back. Her team was positioned on the opposite side of the facility. We're ready when you are. Jack looked at Keith, who lay beside him with a sniper rifle. Take out the guard tower first. On my mark. Keith nodded, his breathing slow and controlled. The other 3 members of Jack's team checked their weapons one last time. 3, 2, 1, mark. Keith squeezed the trigger. The rifle made a sound that hadn't been heard on a battlefield for centuries. 1,000 feet away, a Verk guard collapsed in the tower. Before the aliens could react, Allison's team detonated explosives on the far side of the compound. The blast lit up the night sky. As planned, most of the Verk rushed toward the explosion. Move, Jack ordered. His team slid down the ridge and approached the fence. They cut through it with simple wire cutters, no laser tools that might be detected. Inside the compound, Jack led his team toward the main storage building. They moved from shadow to shadow, avoiding the few Verk still guarding this side. We're inside, Jack reported over the radio. Samantha, status? Air is clear, Samantha replied from the helicopter hidden in a canyon 2 miles away. But I'm picking up chatter on their frequencies. They're confused but not calling for backup yet. Good. We have 5 minutes. Keith, set the charges. Keith pulled blocks of C4 explosive from his pack and began placing them on key structural points. Jack and the others covered him, weapons ready. A Verk soldier rounded the corner. It froze for a moment, its insect-like eyes widening at the sight of humans where none should be. Before it could raise an alarm, Jack fired 3 rounds from his M4. The alien fell silently. "Charges set," Keith reported. 2-minute timer. "Move out," Jack ordered. "Rendezvous at Point Bravo." They retreated the way they had come, slipping through the fence and into the darkness beyond. Behind them, Allison's team continued to create distractions on the far side of the compound. 2 minutes later, the main storage building erupted in flame. Secondary explosions followed as the Verk ammunition inside caught fire. Jack watched from the ridge as chaos spread through the alien base. "All teams report," he said. "Team 2 clear," Allison confirmed. "No casualties." "This is Samantha. I see Verk reinforcements incoming from the east. 2 aircraft, moving fast." Jack looked at his team. "We got what we came for. Let's go." They moved through the darkness toward their extraction point where Samantha would pick them up. Behind them, the Verk supply depot burned, the first successful human strike in months. Supreme Commander Zorthal stared at the holographic display showing the destroyed depot. His upper arms were crossed over his chest, his lower arms resting on the control panel. "Explain," he demanded. His second-in-command shifted uncomfortably. "We are unsure, Commander. Sensors detected no human presence before the attack. The few survivors report seeing humans with primitive weapons, but that makes no tactical sense." "And yet," Zorthal said coldly, "a major supply depot is destroyed. 3 days ago it was a communication relay. Before that, a fuel storage facility." He zoomed the map out, showing the pattern of attacks. "These are not random. Someone is systematically targeting our infrastructure." "The resistance was broken when we took their cities," the second insisted. "Their remaining forces lack the capacity for these attacks." Zorthal slammed a fist down. "Then explain them. How do they appear without detection? How do they vanish afterward? I want answers." The second bowed. "We will increase patrols, set traps. We will capture one of these ghosts." "See that you do," Zorthal said. "Or I will find someone who can." In the underground resistance headquarters, Commander Ethan Pierce watched the recorded footage of the burning Verk depot with amazement. The base was hidden in an old mine shaft, protected by layers of rock that blocked Verk scanners. "Play it again," he said to Lisa Carter, who operated the communication system. The video, captured by a hidden drone, showed the Verk facility exploding. It was the 3rd major blow against the aliens in 2 weeks. "Who's doing this?" Ethan wondered. Aloud. "It's not any of ourselves. We don't have the firepower." "Whoever they are, they're good," Lisa said. "The Verk are getting nervous. Their communications are filled with reports of human ghosts that their sensors can't detect." Daniel Gray entered the room. His arm was in a sling, injured during their escape from the city. "The civilians we evacuated from Sector 7 are settled in the eastern tunnels," he reported. "Food supplies will last about a month." Ethan nodded. "Thanks to these attacks, we might have that long." "The Verk are pulling forces back to protect their remaining facilities. We should try to contact them," Daniel suggested. "These ghost fighters join forces. If we knew how to find them," Ethan agreed. "Lisa, keep monitoring all frequencies. If they're human, they must be communicating somehow." Back at Dr. Summers' hidden facility, Jack debriefed the teams. They had completed 3 successful missions with no casualties, destroying key Verk infrastructure. "We're making them nervous," he told the assembled warriors. "But we need to do more than just blow things up. We need intelligence." Allison nodded. "My team can infiltrate one of their command posts, get information on their overall strategy, maybe find weaknesses." "It's risky," Jack said, "but necessary. Samantha, what have you learned about their aircraft?" Samantha brought up diagrams on a screen. "They're fast, but not very maneuverable. With the right approach, I think I could fly one." "Steal a Verk ship?" Keith asked. "That would give us a huge advantage." Olivia entered the room. She looked more hopeful than she had since they awoke. "We've been monitoring Verk communications," she said. "They're calling you ghosts, phantoms. They have no explanation for how you're bypassing their detection systems. Good, Jack said. Fear is a weapon too. There's something else, Olivia continued. We've detected human resistance broadcasts. There are survivors organized under a Commander Pierce. They're hiding in the mountains about 100 miles north of here. Jack considered this. We can't risk direct contact yet. The Verk would be watching for that. But maybe we can send them a message. How? Asked Keith. Jack smiled. By hitting an even bigger target, something that tells both the Verk and the human resistance that this fight is far from over. The ancient warriors gathered around a map, planning their most daring mission yet. For the first time in months, humans across Nova Terra began to whisper about hope. Stories spread of mysterious soldiers who fought like the legendary warriors of old, striking from nowhere and vanishing back into darkness. In his command ship, Zorthal raged as more reports of attacks came in. The ghosts were everywhere now, and for the first time in his long military career, the Supreme Commander faced an enemy he could not track, could not predict, and could not understand. The tide was beginning to turn. The main Verk command center stood in what was once the human capital city. It was a massive structure, rising 20 stories high, surrounded by force fields and guarded by hundreds of soldiers. Verk ships patrolled the skies above it day and night. It was considered completely secure. Allison Wright studied it through binoculars from 3 miles away. Her team was hidden in the ruins of a collapsed building. They had been watching the command center for 2 days, noting guard patterns and shift changes. It's impossible, said one of her team members. Even if we could get past the outer defenses, there are too many inside. Nothing's impossible, Allison replied calmly. Just difficult. She lowered the binoculars and turned to her team. We're not here to destroy it. We just need to get inside their communication hub, plant the device, and get out. The device was a small transmitter developed by Dr. Summers. It would allow them to listen to all Verk communications and occasionally insert false messages. But it had to be placed inside the command center to work. Allison's radio crackled. Team 2, this is Eagle. In position. Eagle was Samantha's call sign. She had successfully stolen a Verk aircraft during their last mission. Now she waited nearby, ready to create a distraction when needed. Copy that, Eagle, Allison responded. Stand. She checked the time. It was nearly midnight. The Verk were changing guards now. Let's move, she ordered. The team slipped through the ruins, approaching the command center from the south side, where the debris of fallen buildings created a path close to the outer wall. They wore dark clothing and moved silently. Skills that had been drilled into them centuries ago but remained just as effective. They reached the maintenance tunnel Dr. Summers had identified in the old city plans. It hadn't been used since the Verk arrived. The aliens were too large to fit through the narrow passage. Eagle, we need that distraction now. Allison whispered into her radio. On my way, Samantha replied. A moment later, they heard the sound of engines overhead. Samantha flew the stolen Verk ship in low over the command center, dropping flares that exploded in bright bursts of light. Alarms sounded inside the compound. Guards ran toward the commotion. Now, Allison said. Her team pried open the tunnel entrance and slipped inside. The passage was tight, forcing them to crawl on hands and knees. It smelled of dust and mold. After several minutes, they reached a grate that looked up into the basement of the command center. Allison listened carefully, then lifted the grate. The room above was empty. They climbed up one by one and moved quickly to the door. According to the plans, the communication hub is 3 floors up, Allison said. We'll use the service stairs. They encountered 2 Verk guards on the stairwell. Allison took them down with her combat knife before they could raise an alarm. Outside, they could hear Samantha still leading the air defenses on a wild chase around the building. The communication hub was a large room filled with equipment. 3 Verk technicians worked at control panels. Flash and clear, Allison ordered. Her team threw in stun grenades, then stormed the room. The Verk were unconscious in seconds. Allison moved to the main control unit and attached Dr. Summers' device to an access port. Transmitter planted, she reported over the radio. Activating now. The small device lit up, indicating it was working. It would be nearly invisible among the complex Verk systems. Let's go, Allison said. Same way out. They had almost reached the basement when alarms sounded throughout the building. They've discovered the bodies in the stairwell, one of her team said. Allison made a quick decision. Change of plan, we go out the front. The front? Another team member asked, shocked. They'll be looking for us to sneak out so we don't sneak. She pulled a grenade from her vest. We make noise. The team followed her to the ground floor. Allison threw the grenade at the main power relay they passed. The explosion plunged the building into darkness for a few crucial moments before emergency lights came on. In the confusion, they burst through the main entrance, firing at the guards outside. The Verk, expecting an attack from outside, were caught completely off guard by humans coming from within. Eagle, we need extraction at the front entrance, Allison called. On my way, Samantha replied. The stolen Verk ship swooped down, hovering just above the ground. The team ran for it, providing covering fire as they went. They climbed aboard, and Samantha gunned the engines, shooting away from the command center as more Verk poured from the building. Did you get it done? Samantha asked as she piloted them away. Mission accomplished, Allison confirmed. She looked back at the chaos they'd left behind. And I think we sent a pretty clear message. In the Resistance headquarters, Lisa Carter jumped up from her communication station. Commander Pierce, we're picking up a new signal. Ethan rushed over. What is it? It's coming through the old emergency band. Someone just sent a message using a code from before the fall of Earth. Lisa adjusted the controls and played the message. To all human resistance forces, you are not alone. The ghosts of humanity's past have returned. Stand ready. The real fight is just beginning. Ethan stared at the speaker. Can you trace it? No, it bounced through several relays, Lisa said. But there's more. After this message, I started picking up scattered Verk communications. Someone has tapped into their network. Daniel joined them, his eyes wide. How is that possible? The Verk command center is impenetrable. Apparently not, Ethan said with the first real smile in months. Send a response on the same frequency. Tell these ghosts we're ready to join forces. Jack Harmon stood with Dr. Summers in the communication room of their hidden facility. They listened as Lisa's response came through. To the ghosts. This is Nova Terra Resistance Command. We stand ready. Tell us where and when. They took the bait, Olivia said. With the transmitter in place, we can coordinate with all resistance cells across the planet. Jack nodded. It's time to bring everyone together. The Verk think they're fighting scattered groups. They don't realize they're about to face a united human force. Keith entered the room, his face serious. The Verk are moving. Their patrols have doubled. They're searching every sector systematically. They're getting desperate, Jack said. That's good. Desperate enemies make mistakes. Or they get more dangerous, Olivia warned. Sorthal has called for reinforcements from the Verk homeworld. Jack considered this. How long until they arrive? At least 2 months, Olivia said. Their fastest ships can't get here sooner. Then we have 2 months to win this war, Jack stated firmly. We start by meeting with Commander Pierce and unifying our forces. Samantha and Allison joined them, still wearing their combat gear from the mission. The ancient warriors are making history again, Samantha said. No, Jack corrected her. We're making humanity's future, and it starts now. As they planned their next move, the spark of hope they had ignited spread across Nova Terra. For the first time since the invasion began, humans dared to believe that all was not lost. The ancient warriors had returned, and with them came the fighting spirit that had defined humanity since its earliest days. The tide had turned. The real war for Nova Terra was about to begin. Dawn broke over the mountains of Nova Terra. In a large cave system converted into a war room, Jack Harmon stood before a gathered crowd. In the month since their first contact, the ancient warriors had united with Commander Pierce's resistance fighters. Now representatives from every human settlement across the planet had gathered for this crucial meeting. The Verk reinforcements will arrive in 3 weeks, Jack said, pointing to a holographic map. We don't have much time. Ethan Pierce stepped forward. The Resistance commander had been skeptical at first about these warriors from the past, but their results had earned his respect. Thanks to the transmitter Commander Wright's team planted, we've intercepted Verk battle plans, Ethan said. They're consolidating their forces around the main command center. Supreme Commander Zorthal is getting nervous. He should be, Allison said from her position near the wall. We've hit 37 targets in the past month. Destroyed 14 supply depots, 7 communication relays, and 3 troop transports. Lisa Carter, who now coordinated communications for the United Resistance, added, The human population is rising up everywhere. The Verk can't understand how we're coordinating so effectively when their sensors still can't detect our ancient warriors. Jack looked around the room. Old and new warriors stood together, united by a common goal despite being born centuries apart. Dr. Summers was there too, working with Samantha on some kind of device. It's time for the final phase, Jack announced. We've weakened them, confused them. Now we take the fight directly to Zorthal. Keith Miller unrolled a detailed map of the Verk command center. Based on the intel we've gathered, Zorthal's ship is docked here, he said, pointing to a large landing pad on the roof. He never leaves it. It's his mobile command center and escape vehicle. So we capture the ship, we capture Zorthal, Daniel Gray said. His arm had healed and he'd been training with Keith for weeks. Exactly, Jack confirmed. But the ship is heavily guarded, and the command center has been fortified since Allison's team infiltrated it. Samantha stepped forward with Dr. Summers. That's why we've been working on this, she said, revealing a small device. It's a signal disruptor. It will temporarily disable all Verk technology within a half-mile radius. Their weapons, shields, communications, everything will go dark for about 10 minutes, Olivia explained. But we only have one shot. Once they realize what's happening, they'll adapt. Jack nodded. 10 minutes is all we need. He outlined the plan. A 3-pronged attack. Ethan and the main resistance forces would create a diversion at the south side of the command center. Allison's team would infiltrate and plant the disruptor device. Jack's team would capture Zorthal's ship when the device activated. What about Verk reinforcements from other areas? Someone asked. We'll handle that, Keith said. He had been working with resistance cells in every sector. When the attack begins, resistance fighters will hit every Verk position simultaneously. They won't have reinforcements to spare. The meeting concluded with final preparations. As people filed out, Olivia approached Jack. This plan has a high probability of failure, she said quietly. The odds? We don't need to know the odds, Jack interrupted with a small smile. In my time, we always fought against the odds. Olivia looked at him with a mixture of concern and admiration. Just come back, she said. All of you. The attack began at midnight. Explosions rocked the southern perimeter of the command center as Ethan led hundreds of resistance fighters in a frontal assault. The Verk responded predictably, sending most of their forces to meet the threat. Meanwhile, Allison's team slipped through the maintenance tunnels again. They reached the central power station undetected and planted the disruptor device. Device in place, Allison reported over the radio. Activating in 30 seconds. On the roof, Jack's team waited in the shadows. They had approached from the air using Samantha's stolen ship to drop them off before she joined the aerial diversion. 20 seconds, Jack said. Everyone ready? His team checked their weapons. They carried a mixture of their ancient firearms and modern plasma weapons. The old and the new, just like their fighting force. 10 seconds. Jack thought briefly about the strange journey that had brought him here. Frozen in time, awakened centuries. Later on an alien world, fighting to save a humanity he barely recognized. Yet some things never changed. The need to protect, the will to survive, the courage to fight against impossible odds. Now. The disruptor activated. Every Verk system went dark. Shields fell, weapons deactivated. Communications went silent. Jack's team rushed forward. The Verk guards around the ship tried to fight, but without their energy weapons. They were outmatched by the ancient warriors' brutal close-quarter combat skills. They secured the ship in less than 3 minutes. Jack led the way inside, where they found Zorthal trying to restart the systems. The Verk commander turned, his forearms reaching for backup weapons. "It's over," Jack said, aiming his rifle. Zorthal froze, his alien features showing confusion. "How?" he demanded. "How do you keep evading our detection?" "Because you forgot the most important lesson about humanity," Jack replied. "Our past is our strength, not our weakness." They secured Zorthal as the disruptor's effect began to fade. Verk systems started to reboot, but by then, Samantha had landed on the roof. They loaded the captured commander onto the ship and took off as the battle continued below. From the air, they could see that the resistance was prevailing. With the command center in chaos and Zorthal captured, the Verk forces lost coordination. "We did it," Keith said as they flew away. "I can't believe we actually did it." Allison looked at the alien commander. "What do we do with him?" "We use him," Jack said, "to send a message." 3 days later, Zorthal stood before a communication array, surrounded by armed humans from both the present and the past. Jack stood beside him. "Send the message exactly as we wrote it," Jack ordered. The Verk commander hesitated, then began to speak in his native language. The message went out to all Verk ships, including the approaching reinforcements. "This is Supreme Commander Zorthal. I am ordering all Verk forces to withdraw from Nova Terra immediately. The humans have demonstrated capabilities beyond our understanding. Their ancient warriors cannot be detected, cannot be stopped. They have promised to release thousands more from stasis if we continue this war. Retreat is our only option." It was partly a bluff. There were no more ancient warriors in stasis. But the Verk didn't know that. The message continued, detailing the defeat suffered over the past month and emphasizing humanity's unexpected strength. It ended with a clear warning. All human worlds were now off-limits to the Verk dominion. 1. Week later, the last Verk ship left Nova Terra's orbit. The reinforcement fleet had received the message and turned around. For the first time in years, humans looked up at their sky without fear. In the Resistance headquarters, now becoming the center of a new government, Jack stood with his fellow warriors. Of the original 40, 32 had survived. They had become legends among the people of Nova Terra, the ancient warriors who rose when hope was lost. "What now?" Allison asked. "We don't belong in this time." "Maybe that's why we're perfect for it," Jack replied. "We'll help them rebuild, teach them what we know. And then we live the lives we never got to have," Keith finished. Celebrations continued around them. Dr. Summers approached Jack. "The council wants to meet with you," she said. "They're talking about expeditions to reclaim Earth and Mars." Jack nodded. "One step at a time," he said. "We just won one war. Let's enjoy the peace before we start the next challenge." Outside, the sun rose on a free Nova Terra. Humanity had survived its darkest hour, and though the path forward would not be easy, they would face it together, the people of the future and the warriors of the past, united by the unbreakable spirit that had defined humanity since its earliest days. Hope, once lost, now burned brighter than ever before.